All right, so we're going to be covering arithmetic mean. So essentially the arithmetic mean is when you're, I'm going to kind of write it in not necessarily the textbook definition. So it's when you're given numbers with missing numbers in between. And you use this method to find the missing. So the textbook definition says they're not consecutive. So essentially they're just not one after another. So usually we had like about 4 numbers and it said like 2, 4, 6, 8 or whatever it said, and it had back-to-back numbers. Those would be consecutive numbers. So let's take a look at a mean. So we'll take a look at just with one missing in between, okay? And then real quick, we're actually going to be using the same equation that we have been using before. So it's going to be a to the nth equals the first term plus n minus 1 times your d. So for the arithmetic mean, you are already going to know your a of n. That's going to be your last term. And then you're already going to know a of 1. That's going to be your first term. And then you already know your n. So it's going to be the numbers there and the number of blanks added together. Okay. So we already know a of n is our last term. A1 is our first term. And we know our n. So what are we looking for? We're looking for d. Once we know what d is, once we know what the d is, then we can find the blank terms. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with just one blank just to kind of keep it simple. So once we have the numbers, that's the first problem. So we have ... Let's say we have negative 22, a blank, and a negative 30. So our first term, so A1 is going to be negative 22. Actually, we'll do n next. So we want to count all the numbers that we see. Even though there might be dots before and after, we want to just focus on whatever numbers we can see. So the first number that we can see on there is going to be negative 22. So that's our first term. This is blank. We don't know what it is. That's going to be our second term. And this is going to be our third term. So we can go ahead and say that n is equal to 3. Go ahead and erase these bubbles. So n is equal to 3. So our nth term is our third term, which is going to be negative 30. So when we see our formula, we're going to go ahead and put everything in. The only thing we don't have is d. We're going to solve for d. So we can go ahead and put in, this is supposed to be A3. Okay. So it's going to be negative 30 equals first term. So our first term, which is negative 22, plus our n, which is 3 minus 1, times our d. The d is the only thing we don't know what it is. Okay. So we can go ahead and do 3 minus 1 in the parentheses. That's kind of like our PEMDAS, right? So negative 30 equals negative 22 plus 3 minus 1 is 2, so we have 2d. We want to get the d all by itself, so we're going to add 22 to both sides. negative 30 plus 22. This is going to give us a negative 8. So negative 8 equals 2d. And we went, like I said before, we want to get d by itself. So that's 2 times d. So we're going to divide both sides by 2. So we're going to get negative 4 is equal to d. Now, that's not our final answer. We want to find the missing term. So I'm going to go ahead and add. So I'm going to rewrite this over here. Negative 22 something, negative 30. I know I'm going to add negative 4. So it's going to be 22 negative plus 4 negative. We're going to get a negative 26. Negative 26 would be your answer. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at another problem. So if I had 24, let's say 2 blanks, and then 6, A1 is 24. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 terms. So n is equal to 4, and the 4th term is going to equal to 6. Okay, so we have 6 is going to equal to 24 plus 4 minus 1 times d. Simplify that. 6 is equal to 24 plus 3d. And then we're going to subtract 24 from both sides. And then 6 minus 24 gives me negative 18. So negative 18 is equal to negative 3. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a positive 3. Negative 18 is equal to 3d. And then divide both sides by 3. I'm going to get negative 6 is equal to d. So remember, that's not our final answer. That's just going to help us in our sequence. So we're going to have negative 24 something, something, 6. How's it 24? Okay, so we're going to add negative 6 every time. So maybe 24 plus 6 negative. That gives us 18. And we have 18 plus 6 negative is going to give us 12. And we can double check our pattern still works. So 12 plus 6 negative is going to give us 6. Perfect. So that pattern matches. So our answer would be 18, 12. These are the 2 missing terms right there. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at if we had 3 missing terms. So let's say we have 6. Something, 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 negative 26, dot, dot, dot. Okay. So this is our first, second, third, fourth, fifth. We have n is equal to 5. Our first term is 6. Our 6th term is negative 26. So let's go ahead and find your d. So negative 26 is equal to 5. Is going to equal to 6 plus 5 minus 1 times d. Remember, this is just our same formula that we used before. Did I not write down the... I guess I didn't write down. But it's this formula that we used last time. So it's going to be our a of n equals a of 1 plus n minus 1 times d. Okay. So let's go ahead and distribute our d. Oh, I'm sorry. We can simplify that first. So we have negative 26 equals 6 plus 4d. We want to get d all by itself, so subtract 6 from both sides. We're going to have negative 32, right? I think. Maybe not. 26 negative minus 6. Oh, darn it. Negative 26 minus 6. Okay, I got it right. Cool. Okay, equals, that cancels out. 4d. And then divide both sides by 4. 32 divided by 4 should give us 8. Yep, it's 8. And so it's negative 8 is equal to d. Remember, that's not our final answer. That's just going to help us in our pattern. So we have 6 something. 1, 2, 3, 3 blanks, 2, 3, negative 26. So we're going to go ahead and add negative 8 every time. Okay. So 6 plus 8 negative, because that's a negative 2. 6 plus 8 negative gives us a negative 2. Oh, I did that wrong. Negative 2 plus negative 6 gives me a negative 8. Negative 8 plus negative 2. Negative 8. It's not clearing. Hold on. Negative 8 plus negative 2 is going to give me a negative 10. Oh, wait. Hold on. Technical difficulties. Two plus 8 negative gives me a negative 10. And then negative 10 plus 2 negative, darn it, 10, negative 10 plus a negative 8 gives me negative 18. Sorry, guys. I don't know why I struggled right there. Okay. Anyways, so these would be our 3 terms right here. So your answer would be the negative 2, negative 10, negative 18. Okay. Let's do one final example. It's a little bit longer, but we could probably get through it. Okay. So 40, and there's going to be 5 blanks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we have negative 14. So remember, we're going to use that original equation that we have, which is a to the n equals a to the 1 plus n minus 1 times d. Okay, so our first term is equal to 40. Let's see, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 terms right here. So n is equal to 7. And the number for our 7th term is going to be negative 14. Okay, so let's take a look. So I'm going to put this in the formula. So I have a negative 14 is equal to 40 plus 7 minus 1 times d. 7 minus 1 is 6, so negative 14 equals 40 plus 6d. And then subtract 40 from both sides. 14 negative minus 40, going to give me negative 54, is equal to 6d. And then dividable size should be 9, but let's double check. So 54 negative divided by 6. Yep, because, the 9 is negative. So negative 9 is equal to d. So that means you're adding negative 9 every time. So we have 40. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 blanks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then our last term is negative 14. Okay. So what we want to do is we're going to add the negative 9 every time. So plus negative 9, plus negative 9, plus negative 9, plus negative 9, plus negative 9. So 40 plus negative 9 is going to give me 31. Plus negative 9 gives me 22. Plus negative 9 gives me a 13. Plus another negative 9 gives me a 4. Plus another negative 9 gives me a negative 5. Okay, so the answer is going to be these numbers right here. 31, 22, 13, 4, and negative 5. So essentially, we're using our formula, the same formula we used last time. All we're finding is D, and then continuing the pattern for those blanks.